You know, I really believe we're living in Orwellian times, all predicted. I think this is part of a great script, a grand narrative, the Great Reset, or whatever, that I'm hoping morphs into the Great Awakening that is happening. A lot of people, as bad as the world is, you gotta look for the bright side. You gotta
Yeah,
look for that half
you have
full
to.
part of the glass, as
You
opposed
do,
to just folk.
but you've been exposed to a lot too. Like you have, like when I look at, so I have to tell you this. So, you have your right, your far left, and then I'm exposed to a lot of different things like you are. Um, I always wonder what part of that is true about the movie industry or the acting industry, because you see all this stuff about the Illuminati and about the Freemasons, which I know there's good and bad people in every organization, but I have to ask you, do you get exposed to that? Are you not allowed to talk about it?
Well, the truth is, it's weird. The Freemasons aren't so free, I guess, after all.
No.
Um, everything costs you. I am a member. Don't tell anyone, please. Just keep this between us. I'm a member of the Illuminati.
You're on a podcast.
No, no, I'm a member. Did you hear me correctly?
Yes,
I
I
said
know,
the.
but you're on a podcast, so everyone's going to hear this.
No, no, no. I'm a member of the Illuminati.
Oh, I got it.
Gotcha there. Gotcha.
The
Because
Illuminati, by the way, was started by scientists and spiritual leaders. It had a good
I,
standing in the beginning.
you mean Adam Weishaupt or the Masonics in general? I think a lot of these things have good intentions, and then they get co-opted by other folks that need those intentions within which to hide,
I think you're
right?
right. Yeah, I think you're
Like, let's
right.
just say a company like yours. Let's talk about Root Brands, right? Of which I'm not an expert of, except I love consuming your products. Okay, there you go. You got a plug for me,
Do you want
free.
more
No,
products? Because I can send you more products.
believe me, and there's so many. I can only do so much at a time, girl. You know, I gotta like take it easy. But I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
but again, I'm not trying to do an infomercial here. I look at a company like yours and I go, I hope to God that you are protected. I hope to God that your intentions are respected when you're no longer here. Do you know? Because I would like to start, a hub, a lifestyle thing where everything that has been found good, true, and beautiful to me can be shared. Because what's the point of living and having great things if you can't share them? Sharing is caring. There's
Yeah.
something about sharing knowledge, sharing information, sharing opportunities, sharing perspectives that is ultimately human. And so the point is, if you create something beautiful and someone else can come out and buy it out and co-opt it,
Yeah.
kind of like, I think there's a company called Bragg's apple cider vinegar. Bragg's,
Oh,
the
yeah.
brand.
Yeah.
Well, they've just been bought supposedly by a certain big megalomaniacal billionaire who's probably a front person for the billionaire and trillionaire class. And how how do we know that those apples in the apple cider vinegar are not going to be laced with all this appeal and all these things that they're designed to make life more convenient? But is it really the case? you know I find that these folks with their malthusian ideals, Malthus, for those who may not be aware, was a preacher in the 1800s, in the late 1800s, in London, I believe, or England. In any case, he preached the whole notion that there are too many people in the world, that we don't have enough resources, that we need to keep the population, down. But I did some studying, not too much, but just enough to realize that they've been saying that since, the Greco-Roman days,
They've
where,
been Yeah, they
right.
have.
So, and I'm thinking, well, it makes sense. There's too many people, especially when you drive in traffic, or when you're like in mass transit, or in a cluttered city, or you're in, like, some sort of third world, you know, clutter, or whatever, urban sprawl. But the reality is that there's much more land and much more resources and a lot of technology that has come about lately that could feed the world. We don't have too much. Okay, let me rephrase it. We do have too many people that they can't control.
Yeah.
And that's really the part that is left out of their half-truth statements. There are too many people that they cannot control. And I do believe that we were born to be free. And there are folks that think nothing is free and that you owe them to live. You want to have energy, you have to pay. We could have had
Yeah.
free Tesla energy, 100 years ago. We
No,
could have
you're
had
right.
free energy from the universe. We still have it. It's out there, but we're not allowed to access it.
No.
So that's what I'm seeing, that the powers that be they don't like us. They don't like humanity. And sometimes I agree. We can be animals, we can be
Yeah.
terrible,
Yeah, but that
you
doesn't
know.
mean you're supposed to get rid of everyone. Like I have a major problem. There's this song, and I'm not trying to plug a singer at all, but Casey Chambers sings this song that I actually listen to at least once or twice a month to remind myself of this, and I have since it came out. It's called For Sale, and it talks about not everything about me is for sale.
Mm.
Like some things are not for sale. Some things are mine. But in
Sacred.
this life right now, I feel like I can give my heart or I can give my energy to someone and they don't need to buy it, right? And I can give someone products I make because I want to give it to them, right?
That's
But
right.
unfortunately, in our world, people that I've worked for, even in companies, because I'm a scientist and I've been an inventor and I've worked on things, but I'm also, I'm a female and I work well in teams, but then they
You?
try, yeah, they try to control. So many times in my life, Eastside people have tried to control or own every part of me. And I always say, I want to keep all my pieces. I don't want to sell them for a price, like they're part of me. And I feel like our world has developed into this world where everything is about a price tag or what's for money or what's beneficial to someone that has a lot of influence or money. And I'm surrounded by that probably as much as you are, in a different way. And I would love for people to understand that you can just be a good human being and support the rest of society by your energy and by your intentions. Yes, you have to make money, but how much money does every person need? And unfortunately, I have to remind myself constantly that I have a lot in my life I'm to be thankful for, and there's a
Amen.
lot to share for free and not just have to sell everything that I do, especially my heart, my intentions. But there can be days in business, whether you're an acting business or a scientist like me, that it's hard. You sit in environments where there's a lot of power, and sometimes people that have power just want more.
Oh,
And it gets to be exhausting sometimes, day to day.
I have a quote that, well, I say about some people, but I'm going to use it now. With people with money, there's only one thing people with a lot of money love more, and that's more money, more power, because I think it comes from a deep-seated insecurity that they're not enough,
Yeah.
that the next person is going to take them out or over, or, the ego, right? The richest man or woman or, company in the world. I've grown to a point where I'm okay if somebody else thinks that I'm just a loser because I don't have as much as they do. That's okay as long as I'm a lovable loser. And I think it just takes so much pressure off of having to, compete in a rat race. Well, guess what? We're not rats.
No, we're not.
And and if I want to race to anything, it's I want to race to evolve. I want to race to go back towards my highest good, because I've lived quite a life now, and a lot of my instincts as a child come true.
Yeah.
That it is. The old Beatles song, "All You Need Is Love." Man, it becomes so profound. But love is an incredible force in the energy. But like I recently heard a speaker talk about, love without freedom, you cannot have. You have to have freedom. If you have freedom, then you can have the safety to have love. But if you have love but no freedom, man, that's a problem. And that's, I think, what we're fighting. We're fighting the forces of darkness, of insecurity, of evil that have taken over and obsessed people's minds with the notion that they have to control others or they will be controlled. It's kill or be killed. So what can we do? Well, one of the things we can do is make sure that our modes of communication, oh, someone's knocking on the door, are pure. Oh, I think there's a package at my door. I'm so sorry. This is live, but that knock was very, very. Hi. Oh, hola. Is that done? Perfecto. This is a gentleman that actually has cut the trees that were overhanging the back of my house. Le voy a mandar algo con el señor. Estoy en un podcast en vivo ahora, pero yo me sí, deme esto y se lo mando. Ok, hasta luego. Wow, timing.
You just look like Brad Pitt, or he looks like you. I never thought that until I just saw you walk.
Stop. I wish our bank accounts looked alike. Anyway,
Esai, you are famous. Like, I have to say this because you're such a nice, good person. You really are. And
you're gonna ruin my reputation as a bad guy.
Listen, they handed me all this stuff about you. DZ did, and I was like, wow, he's been in a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, you've been in a lot. You have to eat.
They don't just pay us for nothing,
No, you have to eat. Well, but it looks like, I mean, honestly, most people, I followed a little bit of your same trajectory in a different way. A lot of times when you get older, your career becomes less. And I think that if you're constantly evolving and developing, you can become more.
I'd like to think so. I'm a bit of a late bloomer in general.
Yeah.
As a teenager, I was a late bloomer. In my career, I felt like I had a very good beginning, but then, it's easy to fall back into obscurity in the sun, especially if you don't want to play ball, if you know what I mean, if you're willing to sell yourself or body or your soul.
I know.
And not that I was ever offered a contract, but I was offered some help early on in my career from, shall I say, organized family members. And I was wise enough to not take it. But I'll tell you a quick story that, I've never really told in public. I was just finished a movie called Bad Boys. And not just finished it, but it had been out. And I was still very young. And I got a bottle of champagne sent to a table that I was taking this girl to dinner who I thought was just it. She was like, from the other side of the tracks, very, very sophisticated. And I'm going on a date and I'm, scraping up whatever money I still had left from the movie, which they don't pay a lot when you're not very famous. And there comes a bottle of Cristal. And I'm like, dang, this girl, boy, she put me to the test. That's like 200 and some bucks in the 80s. You can imagine, wow. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like going, okay, I'm trying to think. Dang, like, whoa. And then the gentleman was pouring it out or bringing it, says compliments of. I'm like, compliments? That sounds good. I like the word compliments of. I'm over here. It may not set me back that much after all. And this is the gentleman over there who had I think taken over the club or something, but it was a very, very popular club in the 80s. And I'd like to have a word with you. And I was like, sure, no worries. And I sat down and thank you so much that you didn't have to do this. And no worries. I just want to tell you, we like your work. I'm like, thank you. Yeah. And just want you to know, if you need any help, we have this is the phrase I'll never forget. We have our fingers in some studios.
Yeah.
And meaning they had influence.
Yeah.
And all I could think at that time was two things. Two things ran through my head. I'm going, I've seen this movie before. It's called The Godfather. They do you a favor, then you end up singing for bar mitzvahs and weddings, Johnny Fontaine, right? You're their biatch.
Yeah, that wasn't you.
We got a movie you're going to do, as opposed to, would you like to,
Yeah.
I don't like that. I
No.
don't like that. My mother didn't raise that guy. I don't want to be famous and rich that much. Okay.
No.
So inside, I'm going, okay, 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 watch it, watch it, watch what you say, because if you say no in the wrong way, it can be bad. You don't want to
How did you
disrespect.
say no?
Well, I'll tell you right now. And, I feel kind of a little scared saying this because, it's like, you know, but I think God said, shut up, let me talk.
Yeah.
Literally felt like I was channeling a wisdom I didn't have, or maybe it was me, but God working through me. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like saying the answer was divine, because it was the perfect answer I could give a serious cat who ended up going away for murder and other things. Okay. Um, I said, first of all, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much. In my life, I'm only 21, 20 years old, okay? But I'm like, in my life, no one has ever offered me help. That you would even offer is an honor to me. So just for that, thank you. That means a lot to me. I said, and I know you're going to understand this because you're a stand-up man. I can see you're a stand-up guy. As a man, if I take help this early in my career, and I know you're going to know this, I'll never know. I'll never know how far I could have gone on my own 2 feet before I needed help. And I'll tell you one thing, the moment I do, I know who to go to. Guy sat back and looked at me like, this mother, not bad. He had no choice.
Yeah.
But to respect my respect for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I felt like
Yeah.
somebody said to me, shut up. Don't be a smartass. Don't be your usual wisecracking, self-deflecting, whatever, because this could be dangerous. And
Yeah.
I think throughout my life and career, when I was a little younger than that, I was victimized a little bit by people who, the scammy types of folks that would try to offer you help, but want other things or control or whatever it is. So it was a blessing that I got a little burned here and there, even from when I was 5 years old and went to a photo studio, Rich Art Productions, and had my headshots taken and all this stuff, and didn't turn into anything. Although they took your money at the time, $50 in the late 70s, no, late 60s. That was a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think that you handled that so amazing though, because honestly, there's probably a part of you, not to say that you meant it, but like, it's true. You have to make it on your own. And there were times I was offered help. I don't know. I have to tell you, Esai, my personality is not typically to take help. I know that may
that,
sound
no,
bad,
but
but I've
that's what
walked
you're
away from money many times. Yeah. Because I don't like being bought, to be honest. I don't mind people paying me for a job as a scientist to do what I need to
right.
do, but I
Right.
don't like to have to do something
That's right.
because I'm scared of someone or because they've threatened me. That I've always said this, you can't put a bird in a cage. And anyone that has talent, it goes back, you got to feel free because in the end, it won't work. It just
Well,
doesn't work to control people.
not a free bird. Unfortunately, there are some dodo birds or little cage birds that allow themselves to do that. And I shouldn't be judgmental because we're all on our evolutionary path. I try not to be judgmental. I think there's only one real judge who knows all the facts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in the meantime, I can judge how I feel. I can judge my reaction to things. I can judge my observations, or I can, say, this is what I think I see. But the most important thing, again, getting back to, I don't know what the theme of this is, but I do know you're the root of root.
It's DRC Ventures. We're taking a short break, and DRC Ventures is Solutions for the World, which does include some of Root.
In a world plagued by impurities, one solution emerges from the shadows. Clean slate, the original antitoxin. Orthosilicic acid and vitamin C unite in a battle against unseen adversaries within. Clean slate is an unstoppable force against harmful toxins, wiping the slate clean. This isn't just a nutraceutical, it's a revolution. Say goodbye to the old and welcome the dawn of a new you. Clean slate. Get ready for an epic transformation.
But you may not know this. I'm the owner and the person behind DRC Ventures, which is all the brand companies and the patents and the formulas, and then I license them to Root. So they'll take a short break and discuss the Root products. But for me, one of the reasons I set that up that way is because for me, it was very important to be able to be a scientist and work on the environment, work with people, work in animals, and not be owned by a company. Right.
Yeah.
As much as I love the products because I made them, and I say this all the time for myself and for my children. I've had cancer, I've had Lyme disease. You know, Lourdes, for example, she identifies with me because we've both been through a lot of things in our life, and I identify with her because of that. But in the end, it would be like saying to you, you're going to do a Mission Impossible movie and never do anything else again, right? As a scientist, which could happen. Well, in my heart, I love the whole Root community, and those products I've made are the products I take. So obviously they matter to me, but for me, my life has got to go wherever it should go to provide solutions for the world. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how to say this. There's a lot of things that need to be changed right now. And I kept going back to school because I wanted to be able to make a difference, just like you keep perfecting what you do as an actor. And I say this all the time, each of us have this piece of this puzzle that we're supposed to, we're imperfect, but we're perfect for what we're supposed to do. So the problem is if you give away your freedom, if you give away your heart to something that's a thing, right? That's not an energy.
That can't love you back.
That can't love you back. As a psychologist, that was my first career. I was a psychologist. I used to ask people, what is the difference between a chair and a person? Esai, you wouldn't imagine the number of people that would say, well, you're wearing a different color, or you are, and of course, as a psychologist, you know, right then, that's either a complete narcissist or a sociopath. If they say, well, a person that understands says, well, it's a chair and you're a person and you have feelings. So one of the things I learned to do is say, what's more important, a bank account that has $1 million or $5 million, or a person? And what's the difference? You would not believe in, again, how many people would say, well, if you have the bank account, you can do whatever you want with the money and you can buy people. This is true. As a psychologist, I used to hear this. And I would know this is just really, we have to change this dynamic because this is not the way to be compassionate humans. And I always used to say, just be a good human. How about being a good human?
How about what is it to be a human? I mean, that was that was the theme of a show I did many years ago when my daughter was being cooked. It was a show called Caprica, which was a prequel to Battlestar Galactica, and I played the father of one of these. I played the father of a young girl who passed away in a terrorist explosion, you know, and I was brought together with another character that was played by Eric Stoltz, who was a genius creator. And what his character did is like offered me a chance to see my daughter again, which like any parent would, you know, jump at. And they created avatars of them based on all the technologies and like virtual reality. And it was so weird. But one of the themes of the show is what is it to be human? What is it? You know, with the advent of AI right now, you know, of which I've spoken a little bit, not that I'm an expert, but I'm an expert on the human condition. I think I'm an expert. I will be so bold as to say I know a lot about our frailties and our gloriousness, our heroics. And it's always interesting to see what is it to be human. You know, what makes us, because we are biologic machines to an extent.
We are to an
Mm.
extent, and you
Yeah.
can create a brain. Actually, we like at Harvard, I was involved in projects where we had to deal with bioprinting the human brain. And then the
Yes.
question of the class, because you've got nanobiotechnologists and quantum physicists and everything in the class, and the thing was, how do you all feel about being in this project? And I have to tell you that you can create a brain that is never sad, and that has, you can even use a chip and imprint it, or implant it, sorry, into a brain, and have certain memories, have certain aspects of
Right.
good, like learning different languages, stuff like that. And at a certain point, you're like, where does this end? Like, where
But
do we,
but is it, you know, we talk about artificial intelligence, but is it intelligence or is it mimicry? Is it copying a human being, or is it actually, so for me the difference is the soul,
it's the soul.
whatever
You
that
can't create
is.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think our soul has a source, has an eternal source, and there's a spark of God inside of all of us, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. And you know, what is it? Why are we here? Why do we live in pain and fear and suffer and feel joy? And you know, so I tend to look at patterns, right? The definition of intelligence is the ability to recognize patterns, right? Let's just say, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Because you understand, yeah, why it's occurring. You look at what's happening, why it happened, how
Yeah,
can you change the pattern? Yeah.
but you see things that are not pretty obvious immediately or to everyone. And I think that's one of the definitions. And the pattern I see is it's the toroidal image of, like, you know, the donut of eternity. If you take a donut and you make a coil around, it can keep going, you know, that circle around and around forever, right? So what is eternity? And I think that toroidal thing is God, or whatever you want to call it, pushes out and receives at the same time. We're finding ourselves and exploring at the same time. We are all, I think, a piece of God. We are not God individually. As a Christian, you never compare yourself to God, but there is something that ties me to God. Since I was a child, I knew I
Me too.
am good. The
Yes.
word good and God is one letter away.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, and I don't think that's an accident. Because how do you define goodness? Because again, I'm sorry to ramble here, but part of
You're
the
not,
question now,
I agree
part of
with you
the
100%.
part of the question now of AI is, I'm saying, how can we program benevolence into AI so that it doesn't become something that says you are obsolete? It doesn't become a Frankenstein monster that will destroy its creator. It doesn't become a teenager that will become smarter than its parents and like
Yeah.
whatever. You
Yeah.
know, I tell
Yeah.
people
No.
AI is like a teenager that you have to teach wisdom to, that you'd have to teach humility to. So how do we teach AI to love us? If that's even possible, at least to imitate it. Do you see what I'm saying? If it's a computer program,
You can't, I've seen programs, though, I have to be honest, that
they're biased. They already have the bias already indwelt, no?
yeah, they do. You can program, a person to act like they love someone and to not have anger, or an AI, you can create a brain that doesn't have anger, that doesn't, I guess for me though, I think, how do you know if they really care, and that it's just programmed in to care? How do you know